Let's talk about this absolutely brilliant sword fight from the court jester, and also why one of the greatest fencing actors of all time still needed a stunt double for this scene. The Court Jester is a 1955 musical comedy starring Danny Kaye and Basil Rathbone and Angela Lansbury and Glynis Johns and...
The pellet with the poisons in the vessel with the pestle.
The chalice from the palace has the brew of it is true.
Just remember that. It is so very, very quotable. I thought I'd never seen it, but as soon as I heard the pellet with the poisons in the vessel with the pestle but the chalice from the palace holds the brew that is true, I was like, oh, I have seen it. Just clearly a very long time ago. The reason everyone recommends it to me specifically, though, is not because of the puns or the tongue twisters, it is because of the climactic sword fight between Hubert Hawkins and Sir Ravenhurst. Get it? Got it. Good. So, and I know some of you have missed this, before we explain the fight, the plot, it goeth thusly. There's a usurper on the throne, and the baby boy who is the true king has been hidden in the woods by the Black Fox and his band of rebels. The Black Fox is definitely not Zorro or Robin Hood. Honest. Anyway, Hubert Hawkins is an entertainer for the rebels who wants to do daring and heroic things and also get the girl, but we need to overthrow tyranny first.
If only we could have someone inside the castle, an intimate of the king with access to his chambers.
Spoiler, they find him. Jacquemot the Incomparable, king of jesters and jester of kings. Hubert ends up posing as the court jester and gets embroiled in shenanigans.
I'd like to get in, get on with it, get it over with, and get out. Get it?
Got it.
Good.
Including being hypnotized into seducing the princess. These shenanigans culminate in him becoming a knight, and then fighting on horseback with a mace and chain, and then a massive action scene, and then a very dramatic and comedic sword fight. One of the reasons it's dramatic and comedic is that the witch Griselda hypnotizes Hubert.
On your feet, be not afraid. You're the greatest with the blade.
Which would be great, except all you have to do is that to get him to return it to his original state. Or back again, which is why the fight is so much fun. Hawkins spends half of it gibbering like a clown and flailing with terror, not unreasonably, and half of it beating Ravenhurst easily. So let's have a look. We start with regular Hubert Hawkins. He has just declared himself to be the Black Fox. He isn't. And his buddies from the carnival have showed up to save the day. Hubert is running and jumping and leaping, but oh no, it's Ravenhurst. Ravenhurst does a bunch of stabbing because efficiency, my friends, we're all about that. And Hubert does a bunch of desperate two-handed parrying because he's got no idea what he's doing and he's frightened. And then he tries to get away, and as they come up the steps there are several repeated overhead cuts, which are amusing. They're also sort of telegraphed, but in a comedy fight like this, you don't necessarily have to worry about that too much. Is it funny? Yes, then you're winning. There follows more two-handed blade wiggling as Ravenhurst tries to get around him and then bite him, Hubert. Use all of your available weapons, Hawkins. And then Hawkins is lifted up onto the battlements and off we go again. And then he falls down a hole, and then we're back on the flat, and then the witch gets hold of him. And his whole physicality changes. No more desperate two-handed sword waving, he's cool, calm, confident. He doesn't really bother to move when he's fighting Ravenhurst in this first phrase. And then he goes on the attack, and there's a lot of power there. We'll come back to that thought, but there's a lot of power there. He is overpowering Ravenhurst very easily. And then he has Ravenhurst cornered, but he stops to monologue and whoops. Maybe shouldn't have done that. Now we've had a change of character, let's have another change of scenery. We go inside, there are table shenanigans, Hubert hides behind the curtain.
We'll see whose life isn't worth that.
And then we change back again. We fight, drink. Hubert Hawkins once again easily beating Ravenhurst. Very oops. We change the environment again and run out into an enclosed space. Jumpy, jumpy leap. This is pure ridiculousness and he should have died at least 4 times in this sequence, but it's hilarious, so obviously we'll let it slide. He runs away and goes down the stair slide where he meets Jean. They're both threatened by Ravenhurst, and we're done. In a fight like Wesley versus Inigo, or Inigo versus Count Rugen, or Zorro versus literally anyone in any Zorro movie ever, you have consistent characters. While the tension in the fight may rise and fall, there's a clear through line of intention. Characters start out wanting one thing and they continue to want that thing for the whole fight. In this fight, you never know when we're going to snap Hawkins from bumbling fool who's just trying to get away to the greatest with a blade. And because his intentions swing back and forth so wildly, it's hilarious to watch. Ravenhurst obviously just wants to kill the guy, but he keeps having to adapt to this dude who is fighting him, but also just seems to be losing it. They add interest to the fight by giving you a range of environments, they give you a range of emotions, they give you danger, they give you humor, they give you this amazing physical performance by Danny Kaye. Really, it's got it all. One of the things I like best about the fight, aside from its inherent ridiculousness, is the ending. First, because they win as a group, not with a single person swooping in to save everyone, and second, they win with Hubert Hawkins as himself, not the master of the blade. It would have been much less narratively satisfying if they had won while Hubert was hypnotized, because he's not really himself in that state, so the real Hubert is absolutely terrified. But his whole arc in the movie is about becoming brave and getting to take a stand against tyranny and making himself useful. And what we learn going with him on this journey is that being friendly and cheerful and good with babies All of these are good and positive attributes. Having allies is a good thing. You don't have to do it all on your own. Hawkins does not want to be the baby king's babysitter, but he does it because the Black Fox tells him to, and he wants to help. He's willing to do things he either doesn't want to do or is genuinely terrified of doing, and that is what makes him a good person and a character that we root for. It's also important, and quite sweet, I think, that he fancies the captain, and she also fancies him before he becomes Hubert Hawkins, greatest with the blade, or the court jester, before he does any of the impressive things. Jean still likes him. His arc isn't about proving himself to her, it's about becoming more of the man that he wants to be, and also removing the obstacles which are preventing them from being together. And I know I'm making a video about this fight, but the thing about it is, it stands perfectly well on its own. You don't need to know extra things about it to appreciate it properly. But if you are into fight choreography, then hi, welcome, and here are a couple of extra things which you might find interesting. If you're a screen combat aficionado, then you probably already know that Basil Rathbone was very handy with a blade. The Court Jester is his last cinematic sword fight. And you can tell that he's an excellent stage fighter and an excellent fencer. You can tell he's an excellent stage fighter because of the way he reacts to things in the fight. Selling things in stage combat is all about the reactions. You have to make your partner look good, and hopefully they're trying to make you look good, and then everybody looks great. So every time Ravenhurst checks or shuffles or stabs, all of his facial expressions, everything he does is meant to sell Danny Kaye either as a credible threat to him or as a bumbling fool that Ravenhurst is very confused by. And every time Danny Kaye runs or leaps or reacts, he's trying to sell Basil Rathbone as the terrifying Sir Ravenhurst, or as Ravenhurst, who definitely isn't a credible threat to him in the sections where he's been hypnotized. You can tell Rathbone is a decent fencer by looking at his feet, by his precision, and because it's actually quite difficult to tell when we've swapped to the double. I mean, obviously it is those times where you can't see his face, but while Ralph Faulkner tends to be a little bit more upright in posture, the difference between Rathbone and Faulkner isn't so huge that it's obvious. Ralph Faulkner, who was in charge of the sword fighting for the film, was a fencer and he taught Danny Kaye. But Danny Kaye only had a few weeks to learn the sword choreography. And so you're thinking to yourself, but then why was there a double? Why did they use Ralph Faulkner as the double? I'm sure many reasons, but you know what, let me tell you a thing. I've been doing stage combat for almost 5 years now, and the least frightening people for me to fight are people who've been doing stage combat a long time, and or people who have a lot of experience in martial arts. I do not care if my stage combat partner is a head and a half taller than me or built like a brick outhouse, if they know what they're doing. Because people who have experience in this, particularly if they're a lot bigger than everybody else, are used to treating the people around them as kind of squishy and breakable. Someone who knows what they're doing is not going to have a problem dialing it back. You're not worried that they're going to punch you in the face or drop you on your head or whatever. People who are absolute beginners at stage combat tend not to be very frightening either, because they're quite afraid of hurting people. They tend to be hesitant because they are rightly concerned that they don't want to impale somebody with the sword. You often have to gently encourage them to hit you harder, but it's fine. Danny Kaye is a large, fit, strong man. Basil Rathbone said when he was fighting him that he was probably one of the most physically capable people he'd ever worked with. But he also had less than a month to learn the sword work, and I suspected while watching him with my stage combat goggles on, so to speak, that he might not have had the sword control necessary to make things safe. And people who are very physically capable but don't quite know how not to hurt you, that's very unnerving to work with. When he's fighting Faulkner in those sections, you can see that he's really going for it. And there's an art to looking like you're hitting people as hard as you can without actually hitting them as hard as you can, but I wasn't entirely sure he'd got the hang of that, and I may not have been wrong about that. This is a quote from the book. It came from Horrorwood, and it's from Michael Pate, who played Sir Locksley in The Court Jester. I remember Basil Rathbone having his whole wig cut right up the middle by Danny Kaye on The Court Jester. Danny did a couple of leaps forward unexpectedly and bounced the épée right off Basil's forehead, right through to the back of his head. It cut straight through his wig and into his pate, as a matter of fact. I don't remember whether there were stitches, but there was quite a lot of blood where the épée grazed the top of his head. Okay, so first of all, things do happen, but second of all, I would bet that Basil Rathbone never did that to anybody because he had much better control. As one of my teachers likes to say, you've only got 2 goals with stage combat. 1, be safe, 2, be convincing. That's it. 2, be safe. You need to have control. If Rathbone and Kaye aren't safe to fight each other for whatever reason, then you've got to change it to make it safe. Which they did. Danny Kaye had been practicing with Ralph Faulkner, he was used to Faulkner, Faulkner was used to him, they could go as fast as they liked. Easy fix. All this to say, this scene is amazing, but it took Kaye and Rathbone and Faulkner, and possibly Danny Kaye's stunt double for falling over tables if he had one of those, to make it happen. People have limits, but you can work around those limits and still make amazing stuff. Get it?
Got it.
Good. Happy 500,000 subscribers. See you all soon.